Hey, bro.
Hey, Kia ora, brother. How are you?
How are you? Yeah, good, bro. How are you?
Yeah, we're real good,
Awesome.
man. Where are you, bro? Where are you?
Bro, I'm actually in Byron Bay at the moment, just up north of New South Wales, on the border of Queensland for those people that don't know it. Just up here on a little getaway. We're in between collections at the moment at Earls, so for me, I haven't really had a holiday within the last 18 months. I've sort of had my head down, working as hard as I can to sort of get Earls off the ground. So
Yeah,
it's kind of a well-deserved holiday at the moment, yeah.
and it's not as hardcore the lockdowns over there, eh? Are you like right at the beach or like where are you at?
Yeah, bro. We've just got a little place just on the beach here in New Brighton, and the lockdown over here has been quite crazy, to be honest, especially in New South Wales. I live in DY in Sydney, and to be honest with you, if you didn't know there was a virus going on, you wouldn't realise there was something happening in the city. Everyone was just getting about their everyday life. At the start, I thought the Prime Minister wasn't probably doing the right thing. But as a small business, as myself,
Yeah,
we've grown so much over the last 4 weeks. It's sort of been a massive stepping stone for us. The kind of coverage that we needed, and thankfully enough, in a good way, we've kind of outgrown our system. So with our new range coming in a few weeks, it's we're sending that to a factory to get distributed, which is going to be a lot easier for myself and my business partner.
you sound like you're killing, man. You sound like you're killing over there.
Oh, we're trying to, bro. It's been 12 months since just 13 months since we've launched, and me and my business partner Josh Hears, we're old friends and obviously good business partners now. And I
Yeah.
think for us, it's just about creating our own path, and this we don't come from a background of design. We come from a background of passion of knowing fashion of what we like, and it's just about putting our own swing on things. And with footy, it was always a dream of mine. But when I was a kid, I loved fashion also. So for me to
Yeah, right.
retire from footy and to be able to live another dream, that's something that I always wanted to do. Yeah.
That's so good, bro. I wanted to ask you about footy and just because Monster's part of our business and Artie and Roger as well and Dylan. And I just get to see them in action every day. And this that it seems that, the sports is harsh, right? If you don't
Yeah.
perform, bro, you're out. And
Yeah.
I've yet to see many types of careers where like you just get judged on what you put on the field, and then you could
Yeah.
be off next week, and then
Yeah.
that could be the beginning of the end of your career. And so that level of execution and that focus on being able to deliver consistently, I'm just really interested to know about like, what are the toughest lessons that you've taken from that career in footy into the fashion game, because they seem like they would be worlds apart, but I'm interested to know.
Yeah. I think for me, what kind of stemmed from my mother. I grew up with a single mum who really
Yes, to the
enforced
single
a
mums.
hard work.
Yes.
Yeah, hard. Yeah, so she really enforced something in me that hard work can get you anywhere in life. You just gotta dream of what you want to do, and if you want to work hard, you can achieve what you want. She worked two jobs just to keep the power, keep the food in our cupboard, and I didn't really realize that when I was as a child, but as I grew older, I kind of knew that hard work was installed in me, and I'm sort of the type of person where if I want to do something, I'll set out to do it. I kind of set goals for myself, and what rugby league sort of taught me is nothing's a given.
Yeah.
You need to turn up each week, and you're judged of the 80 minutes that you play each week, and a lot of supporters, fans, etc. Don't really know you outside of that 80 minutes. During that week. So what I learned from footy was time management, how to work within a team, strong values to have as a businessman. I left school in fourth form. I wasn't very good at school. I wasn't book smart, but I was quite street smart, and that certainly helped me a lot. Being chucked in an environment of maybe 30 different personalities in a rugby league environment, and that's something I really got out of that, to learn to interact with different personalities. So when I decided to retire, for me, once again, a lot of people would say, you've got no idea, you're chucking yourself into something you've never done. But I think that's the best way to do it. As a child, I was told I'd never ever play NRL. I was too small. I'm from Christchurch. You'd never make it out. So for me, I've taken that sort of on my shoulders, and that's the mentality I have towards, Earls is, a lot of people doubt us, but we believe in ourselves, and we're not too worried about what other people think. And the biggest thing about it is we're super passionate about it, and I think when you're passionate about something, that can take you a long way.
Yeah, totally. I was just I was thinking about like you mentioned that people like kind of judge you on that 80 minutes that they see you on the field, and the other thing about that is like 1 month you might be the most loved player on the field, and the next you're the most hated dude on the park, and
Yeah.
it just seems so harsh, but like in a lot of regards, like fashion is pretty cutthroat like that as well. It's just like you can be hot 1 minute and then you can be irrelevant the next, right?
Yeah, and that's something that we understand within the fashion game. We know at the moment that to be on point with what's sort of going on with the silhouettes in the world, the shapes of your garments, etc. What's hot on the street, you got to be on point. And something that we live by at Earls is we wouldn't release anything that we wouldn't wear. That was my motto that I decided to have. I'm not a cocky person, but I'm confident within my own fashion that if I make something, design something, I want to wear it to be able to release it, to be able to get my customers, and also educate them about streetwear. We kind of pride ourselves on having that different look, the LA kind of vibe, that American sports kind of look, which unfortunately for New Zealand and Australia, it kind of slowly trickles down. We're kind of the little brother to the rest of the world, and things trickle down, no matter whether it's cars, real estate, fashion, stuff like that. So for us, we live by that motto, and we're slowly building that, and to think the growth that we've had in the last 12 months it has been crazy, and that's from my rugby league platform, but also to the fans out there and the people that believe in us.
Yeah, there's people on here like right now. I said, actually, one of my old school friends is on here, and he just got my Earls on right now, Chicago colorway.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, I think for me, like coming from a rugby league background, running out and playing, in 2011 with the Warriors is probably the highlight of my career. Running out and playing in front of 90,000 fans, sorry, and
yeah,
in the grand final against Manly, and that was a real surreal moment for me. I grew up loving the Warriors, idolizing them, but playing in front of crowds like that, scoring tries, is awesome. But I think for me at the moment, like seeing people wear my stuff that I've designed is a massive thing for me. It floats my boat big time, and it's something that I'm super proud of. I'm very hard on myself in terms of my
yeah,
standards. Was like that with footy, and I think that's sort of resonated into my career so far in the fashion industry. I don't really like calling it the fashion industry because we're not really a catwalk scene at the moment, but
yeah.
we really get a buzz out of that when you see someone purchasing your stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's super cool. Like, I wonder, like, because you didn't have that design background and stuff, and fashion is all about design, how are you overcoming that? How are you, because it's so, like, to me, it's like a really kind of, it's like a really on point brand. And but to hear you say that, oh, you don't have that design background, I thought you were just being on the hustle in the background and cracking in an Illustrator or Photoshop or something. But how have you guys then overcome that challenge of not being having that design capability from the outset?
Yeah, well, what I kind of realized as I grew up, Pat, is you kind of it's good to get degrees and stuff like that, but I think in fashion, one of the biggest things that you can be blessed with is the eye for fashion. You might
Yeah,
not necessarily be able to be design stuff in terms of using a computer, but I really struggled to get my creativity side out. I always knew I had it, but I just never knew how to express it. And fortunately for me, through fashion, that's something that has been able to express my creativity. I've always dressed very differently to a lot of people, especially in rugby league circles. I think
yeah,
fashion is a real individual thing. Everyone has their different style, and for me, It's just about taking different looks and putting my own swing on it. And you know, I don't come from a like I said, don't come from a design background, but that's something that you need to teach yourself. And I
Yeah,
guess when you are passionate about something, it never feels like work. So you want to learn those skills to be able to get better at your craft.
yeah. Plus, in the fashion game, you got to have your own steez anyway. Like, you can't be just like, same as somebody else's stuff, right?
Well, you've got to have your own point of difference. You know,
Yeah,
anyone, you know, the men's fashion game and street game isn't, you know, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You know, men love t-shirts, shorts, you know, tracksuit pants, jackets, hoods. You know, we don't need to reinvent new silhouettes and shapes in that, but it's about putting your own swing on things and identifying what, you know, what you think that your brand wants, you want your brand to look like and how you want it to sort of move into the future. And, you know, obviously our ranges have changed and we're still trying to find our identity and that's slowly coming. That's like when you're a young child, your growth, you know, you find your identity that way. And, you know, 12 months in, we're slowly finding that. And that's the enjoying part. Like we look back and, think of my collection one when I first got my first samples back. I just about cried. They were that bad, you
yeah,
know. But once again, it was a learning curve. You know, communication with people in China. You know, you've got to be able to communicate the best you can through email to make sure that you can take control of that design and they don't put their swing on things, which can happen when you don't communicate properly. So, you know, for us, it's about um, getting a look that me and my business partner both like, and you know we put our own swing on things. We have art, like, you know, mentors that we look up to in the fashion game in LA and the world, and but you know
yeah.
we're trying to do our best down here to try to bring that vibe down here also.
That's cool. What's about the LA aesthetic that you like over, say, the New York kind of vibe?
But you know what? I just really like when I go to LA or America that, you know, people aren't scared to get out, you know, think outside the box with their stuff. I feel like in Australia and New Zealand, it's quite kind of tall poppy syndrome. You know, people, you know, look at people and think, oh, what are they wearing? Whereas in America or Europe, you know, it's this individual, and a lot of
Yeah,
people can express the type of person they am without speaking, with just through clothes, and that's something that I've always prided myself on, and something that I've always done. You know, I don't really care what people think about what I wear, but it's just a way
yeah,
to express it, and it's a passion of mine. I just think, you know, there's so many trendsetters over in LA, people that are willing to take that leap, that opportunity, and that chance to create the trend. And you know,
hmm,
someone that I look up to is someone Kanye West, like
yeah,
you know, I loved his music. College Dropout is one of my favorite albums as a kid, and
yeah,
you know, he's very before his time. That man is so creative, and you know, he's set a lot of trends over the world, and he's someone that I look up to because he doesn't want to, you know, be kept in a box, and you know, that's how I kind of want to feel. Like I was a rugby league player, and then I changed careers, and you know, that's people were trying to keep me in a box saying I couldn't do it. But for me, I'm my own person. I'm in control of my own destiny. And that's
yeah.
something that why I decided to retire. Yeah.
Let's talk about that transition, man, because it's really powerful having that level of intent and what you're talking about. And for so long being focused, on being a professional athlete, and then just this big move, but just this level of self-belief that you could do it, and you always had that passion the whole time. But you know, practically, how do you make that move? Like, how do you validate to yourself that you're making the right steps as you go from this to that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's probably the story I'm about to tell is probably the story behind Earls actually, and actually my life. And like I mentioned earlier, I grew up with a single mum. Didn't really, you know, had my dad in my life, but didn't really have a relationship, off and on relationship. My mum was my superhero. She's been my rock, and you know, I always dreamed of stuff. It was never her dream, but she, you know, she pushed me to live my dreams. And unfortunately, 3 or 4 years ago, my father took his own life, was suicide, and I hadn't spoke to him in 8 years. And you know, we both share the same middle name, which is Earl. So for me, you know, that was something that, you know, it came naturally to me. He was always a super styly dude, and you know, he always wore chucks, you know, tight jeans and stuff like that. And you know, he was a little bit before his time, you know, the way he used to
Yeah,
dress. And for me, I was actually over in England at the time when I found out that he'd taken his own life. So I came back, and what I really took away from my dad's part, like his death, was, life's way too short to be unhappy. And I felt like, when a dream, when a dream of yours starts to become, when you're living a dream and it starts to become work, it's time to walk away. And I got to that point in my rugby league career. I was just, driving to training, not wanting to be there, dealing with my father's stuff, was hurting me. I was kind of in an environment where mental health wasn't really talked about, in the sport. I was in a bit of a boys' club in terms of, I didn't want to go to training and be able to express myself through my dad's stuff, because I didn't want the club to think that I wasn't 100% to play on the Saturday, but I was. But, I just didn't know how to express myself. So for me, I was losing my passion, and I just decided to, in my head, I was like, well, why? If I live one dream, why can't I live another? And I believe that I'd been put on this earth to be more than a rugby league player, be more than an athlete. And I thought to myself, why not jump into something that I've always been passionate about, and that's fashion. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool, bro. That's so cool. And in the same instance, it's just like it's actually so sad that like you play a professional sport and the environment isn't there to support you to deal with the stuff that you're dealing with. But it's so cool that did you feel like the weight of just did you feel unencumbered when you stepped out of sport and all of a sudden I can be more vulnerable and more open and I don't need to like pretend that I'm all right because they may not put me on the field on Saturday?
Yeah, I just kind of felt that, a lot of pressure was taken off myself. I wanted to control my own life, and that was something that I've always wanted to do. Like, I thought growing up, I always wanted to play NRL, play for the Kiwis. And I think for me, it was kind of, I didn't like the whole, at the start, I didn't like the whole, my life revolved around rugby league. And that's what it is. Unfortunately, you give yourself to the game. And that's why the game is so great. It gives you so much skills. But it came a time in my life where I was ready to walk away and make that tough decision. And, I was really, really happy with my decision. I was meant to actually go over to the south of France to play in the Super League, but I decided to turn that down. And I knew that, you know, dealing with retirement has a massive thing with mental health in the game. Like, a lot of
Yeah.
retired players don't deal with that well, stepping outside of the spotlight. And I felt like, also added on top of that, my dad's passing with suicide. I thought it was too much on my shoulders to move away from my family and deal with it over there, when I could step back here. And I knew I was unhappy playing. And just once again, like, I needed to find a way to make myself happy, and that was to walk away from the game, but also to jump into something, like I said, that I'm so passionate about. And I've been doing this nearly for 2 years, getting off the ground. We've been running for a year, and the last 2 years have been hard work, but it doesn't feel like work. And I feel like that's, the best indication that you're in the right environment, and you're living the right life that you want to live.
Yeah, man, that's so cool, bro. One of the things I've often wondered, and just because we're on this and we'll move on after this, but
Yeah, sweet.
like, I'm just so thankful that you're just speaking so openly about it because it's just the real talk that people they need to hear. I've often wondered, bro, like when you're coming to the end of your contract or a contract or you're playing for a contract, I often wondered like what's the feeling like being in that position when you know that your contract's coming to the end or you're playing for a contract or you see it and like maybe your manager's talking to other clubs. I've always imagined that was a really fucking harsh situation to be in, and I just wondered how people find a way to continue to perform in the midst of all that emotion.
Yeah, that's a great question. We're all individuals and we all have different surroundings. So, a lot of boys have children and family, and they can deal with it through that way. I'm very, very fortunate that I have a very, very strong mum that raised me very well. I've got a strong family back in Christchurch. My grandfather, my sister, who actually lives in Sydney, and I think for me, during those contract times, it's very stressful, especially with injury, coming up. I was coming to the back end of my career. I knew it was probably going to be my last contract. I probably didn't really cross that bridge until I was at the Warriors. My first club was the Warriors, and for the first 5 years I was at the Warriors, I probably to the back end of it, I probably got a little bit comfortable. When you get comfortable within yourself and the surroundings, you kind of not switch off, but you think you're quite stable, and I probably don't work the best that way. And fortunately for me, I had a really good relationship with Ivan Cleary, and we all know that
Yeah.
he went to the Penrith Panthers. And I reached out to Ivan. I come to the end of my contract at the Warriors, and they were pretty keen to keep me, but I just knew that I needed a change. And that's the same thing with what happened with me at the end of my career. I needed a change,
Yeah.
and thankfully enough, I got to work under Ivan again, and that sort of restarted my career again. And I'm very
Yeah.
thankful for that. I've been pretty lucky when it comes to contracts. I like to get them sort of done early, but it's not an easy time. I started playing when contracts you live by them. You're loyal to your contract, but nowadays it's super different, and I've seen that change in the game. And I sit back now, and I'm very thankful for my career, but I'm very thankful that I walked away from the game that I love so much at the right time also.
Man, and look at you now, man. I just have so much admiration that you get to then go out and follow your next dream. And I had no idea about this. So the brand name comes from the middle name that you and your father shared?
Yeah, so just a quick background story. Like I said, I grew up with a single mum. My dad's name's Bevan, and we both share the same middle name, Earl. It comes actually from my grandfather, Garth. His middle name's Earl too. And
Oh,
when I went
cool.
back to my dad's funeral, something really took me by surprise, and that was that my dad had taken his own life, my grandfather and my great grandfather, so three generations. And
Oh,
for me, that was
bro,
tough. It
can I
was
jump in
really,
there for a second?
yep, of course,
Do
bro.
you
Yeah.
ever worry about that, bro? Do you
Bro, you
worry
know
that?
what? I kind of, I'm not going to lie. There is a part of me that does worry it, and that does worry. And that's why I kind of made the decision to walk away from footy, because I wasn't happy. And I feel like that could have been a part of me, and I could have been part of that. But I was lucky enough to walk away and want to break the cycle of that.
Yeah,
You know,
good on you, bro.
it wasn't just my dad and my grandfather and my great grandfather, but just the awareness of the whole of New Zealand and Australia, the men and women that have suicide, the suicidal effects. And for me, when I growing up, I hated the middle name Earl. Back in the day, it was an old name, and
Yeah,
something that associated me with my father. And at times I didn't want a father. I didn't believe I had a father. And as I grew older, I learned to respect that. And as I got older, I always thought I was going to have that adult conversation with my dad, in terms of sit down with him and sort out our differences, and understand about his life a lot more. And when it comes to Earls, it was it's just something that felt right. And a lot of brands, I guess, struggle with names. There's some crazy names out there, but I was
yeah.
just driving one day, and it just kind of hit me, and I was just like, man, this is meant to be. I never got to live with my dad much, but I'm kind of taking him on this journey with me now.
Bro, that's so cool, man. That's so cool. And that, obviously that brand name, you just feel that connection all the time now. Like that's easy to call up for you. That's dope.
Yeah, it's just like I said, it's just cool, to be able to see that name, people wearing that name. It's not a name that
Yeah,
you probably hear often, and it's a name that means a lot to me. It comes from my heart, and it's embedded in me, and I think that's a lot to do why I'm so passionate about it. Also, I'm one of those people that, if I'm going to put my name to something, I want to make
yeah,
sure that I do it right. I respect the people in the game, in the fashion game, and there's some great companies out there that have reached out to us and helped us. And but for me, I always promise myself that if I'm going to do something, I want to do it properly. And I believe with Earls, we've kind of done that in the last 12 months.
well, you've created a brand for yourself that just has an incredible personal resonance and meaning, and it must be a pleasure to get up and to work in it every day.
Yeah, it's just awesome. I've got, like I said before, I've got a great business partner. We trust each other, and relationships built on trust. And I feel like when you start your own business, you've got to put your hand up and realize what you're not good at, and you've got to try and find someone that can kind of complement you in that way. And Josh certainly does that. He's very good at what he does. I do all the creative design and stuff like that. All my kind of creativity comes out the eye, but he's got a great eye too. So we kind of mix well. We don't dress the same. We've got a little bit of difference, and then that's where we bring our vibe out. We put it together and we kind of release. And you know, it's pretty crazy to think it's a two-man band and we'll be able to grow so quickly. And you know, to one day to get the resources that other brands have is going to be great. And you know, to see where we can go. We don't believe we've even scratched the surface about, you know, how far we can go with this. And you know, it's exciting. Every day we're improving and we're learning. You know, we've made mistakes, and if you don't make mistakes, then you're never going to learn. You're never going to get growth. And I think that's a really important thing for us the last 12 months.
How do you keep yourself accountable to just being woke to like what's going on, and you know, staying on top of, you know, are we slipping here? Are we repeating a mistake? Like, do you guys keep each other accountable to that? Or like, and tell me about the level of communication that you have in your business relationship, because I know that that's super important as well. Sorry, you just dropped there for a second.
Yeah, we're big on communication. We keep each other accountable. You know, you've got to be able to be a successful company. You've got to take some harsh truths, and you know. But I think you know, our customers really keep us accountable too, with the stuff that we release. You know, fortunately for us, you know, each range as it's gone, you know, our growth's been huge, and you know, we kind of back ourselves. We're confident in terms of what we can do. We do different things. Like tomorrow, we're releasing our vintage range, which, you know, what we do, I go around and handpick each vintage tee and we screen print on top of it. And it's something that not many brands have been doing. And it was just more of an experiment at the start. I actually had an American football tee, and I think it was like a Cleveland Browns, and I just printed Earls across it, and I wore it. And you know, the reaction I got from DMs, you know, social media was crazy. And I thought, well, why not try something? And you know, we've done it 3 times now. And
I remember,
you know,
I remember seeing that Browns. I remember seeing that Browns top. I remember seeing it.
yeah, yeah, bro. And you know, to be honest with you, we you know, we launch it. We've launched it, you know, 3 times at 8 o'clock each time, and you know, we've got 60 tees. The last time when we had nearly 1,500 people waiting on the website just to buy 60 tees. So I think for us, it's sort of about, you know, testing and trying things, but I think the biggest thing for us is that we're accessible to our customers. You know, we don't make out that we're some big brand. We're just 2 dudes that are doing what we love, and we're passionate about what we're doing. I think, you know, starting a clothing brand hasn't changed our egos. It's probably made us a lot more humble than we were before. And like I said, we're just really passionate, and we just, you know, enjoying each other's company, and to be able to go on this journey together is really cool.
So we get into some of these questions, bro, because you got to pick a winner, and then we're going to give away that voucher after this. Let me ask Cody's question, because she won't forgive me, and I'm seeing her on Saturday, so I better ask it. Was there a point in your journey where you felt like giving up, and what made you continue with your vision? I think she's talking about Earls.
Oh, can you repeat that? Sorry, bro.
Was there a point in your journey you felt like giving up, and what made you continue with your vision?
Yeah, well, I must admit, yeah, it was tough when I first started. A lot of people don't realize like how hard a clothing brand is. You know, my advice to people out there is you got to be passionate about it. I think the biggest struggle for me when I first started was, you know, when you're playing footy, you get people contacting you each week, whether it's text or phone calls or emails, and they're always positive, like, hey, congrats, you're playing this weekend, great win. You know, can I get some tickets? You know, it's the family. It's always positive things. But what I learned when I come into the fashion game was a lot of the texts I'm getting are negative in terms of you've got to pay invoices, the emails you get, you know, invoices, you know, customer returns. You know, that's not easy dealing with a customer, because we pride ourselves on customer service. So for me to go from something so positive to so negative was a crazy thing. But it's also a way of learning and learning to adjust my mindset. And
Yeah.
that's something that I learned to do early on. It wasn't easy. We got, like I said before, we got our first samples back. I wanted to cry. I don't even think, you know, our shorts says Earls across the front. I didn't even think it said Earls. I think it was like Earls or something crazy. So I actually rang up my mum and I was like, man, like I can't do this. And my mum, she's always driven me to. She knows what I've got inside of me, and she believes in me, and that's something that I can lean on when, you know, when I'm going through the tough times. Yeah, but also my business partner, we're great. We both look at each other sometimes and think like, how do we get into this? But
Yeah.
you know, life is very funny, and it, you know, you do have a path. It's just about sticking to it, and you've got to go through the tough times to get to the good times.
And we had on media level from the Hene Collective last night. Her brand's doing big things in that athletic apparel space. She's done incredibly well. And, you know, she talked about just the power of her community creating a movement behind their brand, but also that she like had a couple of signature things happen with pieces that she designed. And when they put out their first pair of tights that was, you know, actually made out of fabric that was in the market and their cuts were on point, that was a big drop for them because that was the thing that really blew up for them. That was their one signature piece that blew up. Feels like you've had a couple, but what would you say are the like, you know, in terms of your ranges, if there's been a particular piece that's blowing up and that sort of led to another level of awareness and engagement for your brand?
Yeah, it would have to be our shorts. You know, we've probably released nearly 12 different colorways. You know, obviously we try and theme the colorways around teams and that, but we've sort of, you know, started to drift off and make our own look. But it's certainly been our shorts. You know, we've, like I said, 12 of them. We're sold out every single one. We dropped over 10 pairs in our last range, and they've all sold out. So that's something that has been really massive for us. But you know, someone like myself, I want us to be known for more than just shorts, and you know, that's where
Yeah.
that growth and learn our experience are coming into it now. We've had a year under our belt, and we're starting to understand about what works for us and what doesn't. And you know, we're about to drop a new range in the next 2 weeks, and you know, it's something very different. You know, it's kind of, you know, trying to get our customer outside their box and get uncomfortable with what they want to wear, and make them feel like, you know, it's okay to be different. You know, it's okay to wear a pair of shorts with a, you know, Chinese collared shirt, you know, which a lot of people don't do, sneakers, etc. And that's what I like doing. I like to wear that and have my own individual style. But yeah, definitely our shorts are big. But like I said, I just kind of want to, you know, our identity's still growing, and I want it to be more than just shorts.
Yeah. And what about like some of like, you know, if you look at streetwear and you look at some of those real hype beast brands like Supreme and stuff like that, and they're not really known for particular like they're not doing anything really innovative on the fashion front too much. You know what I mean? They've got, you know, the electric bikes and bloody pinball machines and scooters and all that type of stuff, but like their brand seems to have transcended the game a lot, and then they can just kind of drop it on anything. And because they have this whole movement behind them, just people queue up and, you know, week by week just queue up for the latest drop. What's the insight
Yeah.
around that phenomenon that brands like that have created that someone like you looks at and wants to take or wants not to take from out of that situation?
Yeah, I think sitting back and seeing something like Supreme, when I grew up loving skateboarding, basketball, hip hop music, but I've been a massive sneakerhead since I was a young kid, and you know, to see the hype around sneakers, that was a real eye opener for us, for myself, sorry, and to see something like Supreme, you know, top of the game, probably not reinvent the wheel in terms of different silhouettes, but you know, to be able to do a collab with an Oreo biscuit,
Yeah,
and sell out and be resold for nearly $10,000. You know, it just
yeah,
sort of shows you what kind of hype they have around them, and you know, it's probably something that we've learned from our vintage drop. You know, to have 1,500 people waiting on your website at 8 a.m. or 5 to 8 for 60 t-shirts. You know, it's probably something that we you know, without sounding too cocky, we probably haven't seen that in New Zealand men's street fashion or Australian men's fashion for a long time. You know, we don't have a shop front. You know, it'd be pretty cool to see people camp out and line up for our stuff. But you know, that's something that we've obviously been trying to do, is build that hype, and that's why, you know, we haven't really tried to mass produce our shorts, in terms of we only set MOQ of 150, and once that is sold out, we won't restock that for a while. We're not in it for the mass market or fast fashion.
Yeah.
We want to be in this game in 10 years time. I think that's, if you look across the board, a lot of big brands, you know, the top class brands have got that mentality too. And there's a lot of brands at the moment that just want fast fashion, they're in it for the money. But thankfully enough, me and my partner, we're very passionate about clothing as opposed to money, and we want to be in this for a long, long time.
So how does that kind of model? What's your hypothesis? Like, what's your test around how that model of just keeping those, you know, those quantities low and exclusive, how does that scale out? Does that mean that price is inevitably going to go up, or does that mean, you know, you're going to get into the cycle of just drop after drop after drop? What does that look like for you from a business perspective?
Yeah, something that we always said from the start was, you know, me and Josh always loved brands like, you know, Off-White, Fear of
Yeah,
God, Amy Leon Dior here in Preston. You know, but unfortunately in New Zealand, you know, that kind of stuff's like, you're looking at nearly $600-700 a t-shirt. You know, it's so for us it was about, you know, giving our customer the same kind of quality and the same kind of look, but for a cheaper price. Our prices will never change. Our shorts will never go up. We love seeing our customer wear our shorts, but it's also about not saturating the market also. It's about also trying to develop that short into a new look. Yeah, and like I said, we would never mass produce stuff. You know, we've got opportunities to be able to make 500 pairs of shorts, and of course, like, I'd love to do that. It'd make my pockets happy, but it wouldn't make my mind happy. And you know, I think a good thing for me is, you know, a big I guess in summertime, a big thing in New Zealand is rhythm and vines. And
yeah,
you know, I would love to rock up to rhythm and vines, you know, to see every single kid wearing my shorts. But that's, to me, that I don't find that attractive. You know, I
yeah,
want, that's why we have a certain minimum quantity order in our shorts, because, you know, I want people to be able to, like, oh, where can you get those from? As opposed to being able to just get it, you know, so easy. And
yeah,
unfortunately, we're in a game now in fashion where people want something, that people want what other people don't have. And
yeah.
that's what we're trying to do. But also just trying to make it more accessible for people, you know, trying to bring that look down to New Zealand and Australia quicker than, you know, it usually gets down here.
Let me ask this question here, from Bailey. Huge fan of you guys and your brand. In terms of designing, how do you find trying to take inspiration, and things you, I don't know what the question is. Where does your inspiration come from, bro? Is it informed
Um,
by international trends? You like LA, you said that. Like,
You know what?
what's the,
I don't really have like a certain trend that I like. You know,
yeah,
I'm someone that, you know, I could be walking down the street, you know, a cafe. I'm looking for different like looks. You know, it might not necessarily be clothing. You know, there's a lot of brands that I like, but I sort of take inspiration off, like, I might see something from a brand called Basic, which is an Australian brand. You know, very plain brand, but they've got very like dope silhouettes, and I might like, you know, the sleeves on something, but I like, you know, the pocket on something else, and I sort of take that and put that together, or see something that I like, but I'll be like, oh, I probably wouldn't wear that, but what can I add to it that would make me wear that? And we take a
yeah,
lot of inspiration from that, and I think that's a good one. Bailey is actually one of our biggest customers, so thanks for coming through,
no,
Bailey. Yeah, they've always been very loyal to us. They've been day one. So yeah, I think for us, you know, there's people out there like Jerry Lorenzo and, you know, Teddy Stannis, who runs Amy Leon Dior, which is out
yeah,
of Queens in New York, and they've got that real Queens look.
yeah,
But you know, you kind of just find inspiration within yourself. Like I said before, you know, I would never release anything I wouldn't wear. So it's about putting things together that, you know, I will personally wear. Yeah.
Tell me about how you feel when you walk into some of these iconic streetwear stores in different places around the world for the first time. What do you feel?
Oh man, I'm like a kid in a candy shop, to be honest with you. Like
Yeah, yeah,
with rugby league, I haven't been able to travel too much, with the seasons and playing for the Kiwis, etc. But the last few years, I've done an American trip, LA trip, and yeah, just I guess for me, it's a real buzz. It's like walking out of a tunnel in front of 70,000 people. We're fortunate enough to our first range was picked up by Loaded, which is a big store in Auckland down High Street who have been around for years. I've shopped with them since I was, 10, 15. So, from 10 to 15, so to be able to have our stuff in there and sell out and go up against the likes of Y3, Yeezy, Nike,
yeah.
and still sell out, and hold our own. It's pretty cool. It's very, very humbling and something that I never take for granted. But it's really good. Yeah.
Man, I'm a Y3 tragic, I must admit. Can't lie, bro.
Yeah, those stuff, man. Once again, some of the silhouettes that they have got an amazing, thing.
They've always
I'm the type of
innovated
person
around
that thinks,
silhouettes. Their silhouettes have always
yeah,
been
and that's
effective.
something that I look at. Yeah, I look at clothing, and I don't just look at the look of it. I like the way it's cut. I like the way it's sewn. That's something that I've learned to teach myself about. Not just looking at a t-shirt, but look how it's stitched. The cut of it, how low the shoulder is, etc. The neckline. That's something that I've picked up over the last few years. When you're passionate about something, that's what you want to learn.
There's a good question here, bro. It's pretty funny. Could you make league gear or rugby supporters gear cool?
Well, I remember when I was at the Warriors, we were sponsored by CCC, and I actually went into one of the Warriors marketing team. I said, "Listen, can I help out change? Because when we're traveling to Australia, we were looking like a New Zealand geography class because we had the worst years. But unfortunately, they
Oh,
turned
shit.
down. They declined my offer.
They're lost,
But
bro.
yeah,
They're
I
lost.
would love to definitely. Yeah, I would love to definitely give back to the game in terms of that. But for us, we've done a few collabs. We've got some cool ones coming up. We were fortunate enough to, be reached out to by New Era Hats, which is a global
Nice.
company that are quite hard to get a collab with. So we're working in our second year with them, and we're doing some street stuff with them. Also, they're known for their hats, but they've also got some dope bomber jackets. And we're also about to do a release with G-Shock. So we're doing our own Earls G-Shock watch, which is we're working with the team in New Zealand and Japan, and it's something that we're going to release this year. And to be able to work with global brands like that that's are so high at their game is probably a little bit of a compliment to us. That
Yeah.
how well we're going at the moment and that. But collabs is something that I'm definitely big on. I think bringing two different looks together and to be able to build that brand awareness, I think that's really cool.
Here's a question from Todd. He was on with us earlier, actually. This guy's killer in e-commerce, bro. Absolute killer. World class. He's got
Yeah.
office in New York, actually. What channels are you planning on using to get more eyes on Earls globally?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's probably more for my business partner. I tend to close the blind and close my eyes when that happens. But I guess with the power of social media these days, I've seen some brands just get it on one person and it blows up. I'll tell you a story. We had not many people, all cricket fans would know who he is. His name's Virat Kohli, the captain of the Indian cricket team.
Yeah, yeah.
He's got 60 million followers, and he's a rock star in India. And he actually went into Loaded and bought a pair of our shorts. And the next
Yo.
day we had a lot of Indian people, following us, asking where they get their stuff. I actually said to my business partner, I think we've been hacked, because all
Yeah.
these random people are following us. But that's all it takes. You kind of just got to get it on the right person. But I've been on the other side of the fence also, where I've been given clothes, and when I was given stuff, I would always be very thankful, but then I'd also be very honest to brands that I probably wouldn't wear. I probably wouldn't take it if I wouldn't wear it, and that's something that I've really taken into mind. Who I've given my stuff to. It's not so much about getting. I don't get the thrill of seeing someone wearing my clothing on Instagram, I get more of a thrill of seeing them when they're off the camera wearing it, because that's where I
Yeah,
know what they want to wear. You know, we've had
yeah,
a few boys in the NFL, you know, Seattle Seahawks, you know, in the NBA, wear our stuff to games, which is, man, it's been a huge honor to see that, very humbling again to see that kind of stuff. And you know, if we can get it on the right people, you know, that can go a long way. But you know, with our marketing team, Josh basically is our marketing team. He's done a great job about getting it in the right channels. And you know, once again, we're open to hearing people's opinions, how they think we can grow it. And you know, once, like I said, we're rookies at it. We're still learning, and we're on a path. And you know, if there's any way we can build it, you know, globally more, I think that, you know, we're very open to listening. Yeah.
well, I tell you what, bro, that guy that asked that question, he's an absolute killer. Like,
Yeah.
e-commerce is this thing. You could collaborate. You ever heard of that word before, bro? Collaborate. If you could
Okay.
collaborate with anyone, any brand in the world, who would you choose?
Man, that's a real good question. Oh man, like, you know, like I would love to work with Nike. You know, I've been
Yeah.
a I've been, you know, I've been about the tick since I was a young kid. You know, I think they do some, you know, really dope collabs. But there's some other brands like
Is
Amy
there a
Leon.
signature piece of Nike kit that you'd like to do? Like I would, or like for me, a Nike Destroyer jacket is like probably the ultimate. But like for you, is there a specific type of collab that you'd like to do with Nike?
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Nike, obviously the shoe, but I'm a big fan of you know, not trying to reinvent something. Nike do that the best, the shoe. So
Yeah,
that's why I would never
yeah,
do my own shoe. But if they offered the opportunity to do something like that, like Sean Witherspoon, who runs Round Two, which is a vintage shop in LA and New York and Miami, he was fortunate enough to do the Air 97 Air Max with them, and that was dope. That was one of the best shoes of the year in 2018, and I was fortunate enough to get that, and that was a collab that I always loved. But I'd also like to maybe do something with like Carhartt. I think Carhartt have something that I think that they've done really well. You know, whether you call it workwear, whether you call it casual
yeah,
wear, but some of their like their Detroit jackets that they have and stuff like that, the silhouettes that they have, I think they're really really dope. It's, you know, super plain, but just the way that it comes across and the way that they finish their products really good. Like we've seen here in Preston do some stuff with Carhartt, but also
yeah.
something like probably Fear of God. You know, something
Oh yeah,
that someone I look up to, Jerry. You know, he's kind of, you know, been in the streetwear game for a long time, but he's gone to Zagna now, which is a tailoring, those suits and, you know, trench coat jackets, etc. And it's kind of showed what kind of skills he has, and he's sort of reached into that lane now. And I think if we look in the next 12 months, we'll see a lot more tailoring in streetwear. They'll start crossing paths a lot more.
yeah. Have you ever been tempted to do retail? Have you ever thought about a store in NZ or Aussie? Retail experience? Too small?
Um,
Like what would be even the logic to do a store?
Yeah, I think for us, we always promised ourselves we'd only do a store only if it presented itself on our lap. In terms of, you know, would have to basically be the right time, the right location.
Yeah,
And I was quite fortunate that the coronavirus has probably taught a lot of companies a lot of lessons that, you know, if you have a strong online presence, you probably don't need a shop front. And you know, if you do have a shop front, it's about that experience, going in there, learning, you know, meeting the person, you know, feeling the fabric. But you know, the mentality these days is we want something so quick. It's easy to hop online after your dinner at night time. So credit to Josh, and we're working with a company in Auckland called Studio South who are just about to build us a new website. And
yeah,
I think if we can just nail that, you know, we can sort of have that, but also we've got some wholesalers like Loaded who get our stuff, and we've got a few other retailer stores that are keen. But I think for us would be to do a retail experience, more of like a pop-up shop as opposed to
yeah,
having a full-time shop. I think doing a pop-up shop, super minimal, just more about coming the experience. Not all of our clothes out, just one piece of each garment, the racks with all the sizes at the back. You know, somewhere different where people have to travel to it, because that way you know that people are actually coming to you to see your stuff. I think that's something that we'd really love to do.
yeah. That sounds real cool, man. I'd like to see that. James has been going hard on the questions, so I'm going to just pop one of his ones up. He's just asking direct. Would you ever consider ambassadors?
We don't really kind of go with ambassadors, only because I
Sorry,
don't want to
James.
put the
Sorry,
pressure
brother.
on. Yeah, a lot of people are sponsored by a lot of different, companies, contracts that they have. We look after a few of the All Black boys like Rico Ione, Artie, and those boys, and also Aaron Smith. And I understand that the contracts that they have are, big with Adidas. And, I'm
Yeah,
fortunate enough to get some of my clothes on them. They actually love wearing it. And it actually caused a bit of a commotion with Adidas where they sent around an email saying that they weren't allowed to post Earls. So for me, there was a bit
that's
of
a win.
a blow in the way
That's a
that,
big win. That's
that
a big
Adidas
win.
even knew about us. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think I think in the future, we'd like to kid out some people. But one thing I'd love to do is probably dress a tennis player. I think tennis players could look real dope in some street stuff, playing like whether it's Wimbledon, the Australian Open. But I'd love
Yeah,
to
that'd be cool.
maybe work with a tennis player one day. Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be cool. Timothy Ellison's on here. What's up, brother? Having played
that bro.
played footy and knowing there is an end, do you have a time frame for your mahi with Earls? Like, is there an end game? Is there an exit plan for Earls? You seem like you love it too
Uh,
much, bro. Like,
yeah,
would you ever flip it? It seems too personal.
nah, that's a good question, but for me, it doesn't have a price tag on it. When it comes to your name, and you're so personal with it, you know yourself. If you're passionate about something and you're strong-minded and you want something to work, you'll go to any lengths to make that work, and that's how I feel with Earls. I don't think there could be a price tag to take my name away from me. Even if it did, it'd have to be the right person. It doesn't have to be the right price, but it'd be the right person that I know that could respect the brand and take it to a place where I thought I couldn't take it, but I think we can take it places. And like I said earlier, we're not in it for fast fashion or mass market. We're in it for
Right.
longevity, and I think if we can keep those steps and that slow growth, I think that we can be in this game for a while. Yeah.
It seems to me that you're intent on actually building something quite iconic for.
Yeah, I think so. That's something I want to do. We look at probably the foundations of men's street fashion in New Zealand. Huffer, Lower, I Love Ugly. Brands like that. That have been around for years and created paths for brands like ourselves to give us the opportunity to do stuff. Give us the inspiration to be able to sell in New Zealand, and to think that if I could be up alongside them and in the next few years or the next few, year or so or the months, would be awesome. To be a staple New Zealand men's brand, over the next 5 years is something I'd be very proud of.
What about global aspiration? Do you see yourself up there on a global, in New Zealand success is one thing. Do you think you could take it all the way and take that level of success to a global market?
You know what? I'm going to be confident and say, yeah, I do. I do believe that we do have the skills and the eye for that. It's just about time and growth. You can't prepare yourself for growth, unfortunately, and there's no instruction book when it comes along. But it's just about not getting too far ahead of yourself, and just ticking all the right boxes. And we're slowly doing that. We've had a few. Retailers that are keen in different parts of the world. So for us, if we can, match the right shop, the right retailer that we think we suit their style, we'll do it. And I've got enough confidence in myself, me and Josh, that we can do it. And it's coming to a point where we're going to have to look at hiring some people, which is a scary thought
So,
to be able to take on people and have a massive effect on their life, paying them, which I've never had to do, which is a scary thing. But unfortunately, that's what you have to do if you want to take on the world. And yeah, so it's a scary thing, but also an exciting thing at the same time.
yeah, it's so good, because you get to build a team and you get to build a culture. And let's take this last question, bro, then I need you to choose a
Like,
winner. Just if there was a
yep.
question that sort of stood out for you. Sure, Lewi, what's your best marketing strategy so far that's worked? The hack. What's the hack, bro? How do we hack this game?
Yeah, man, that's a good question, man. Biggest marketing strategy. I wouldn't say it was a strategy or marketing, but I think the story behind Earls kind of, resonated in a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of brands have a lot of stories, but we kind of know in New Zealand and Australia how much mental health means to people. And, unfortunately, it took that event in my life to change my life for the good. And, to tell the honest story behind it, it means a lot, to a lot of people. And I think a lot of people, just wanted to hear the story and follow us and our journey. And I feel like we're the type of people where, people feel like they're on the journey with us also. We don't cut people off. Our customers, they've been there since day one, and they're part of the journey. They've helped us grow, and they'll always be with us. And I think that's, it's not a marketing strategy, but it's just been we've just been about being organic, being natural, and not pretending that we're something we're not. We're just two dudes that are enjoying ourselves, with a story behind it, and just living our lives.
It's so dope, bro. I want to thank you just for being so open. Your real talk was real. Thank you for your
Thanks, bro.
vulnerability and the transparency in your story. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and your journey. We got to choose a winner, bro. We got a minute 23, and then Instagram's gonna be like, and cut us off. Was there one
Yep.
question that you remember that stood out for you?
Um, I think the one about e-commerce. I think he was a good dude. Pretty dope. I like that question, and I probably like the last one about the marketing and the best marketing strategy. I know Bailey is a big customer, and they asked a question, but I've looked after them a few times, even though they've ordered heaps. But yeah, probably the last question that about the best marketing strategy. I think that was a cool one. Yeah.
All right, okay, Liam Clark, man, $200 Earls voucher coming your way, bro. Please give us a DM, Earl, on the We Are Manaaki channel. Congratulations. Louis, man, keep on going hard, bro. We wish you all the success. Thank you for your time, your real talk tonight, brother. Stay safe, and we look forward to hearing more about your incredible adventure.
Yeah, thanks, bro. I just want to say thanks to you guys too, and you guys are a big inspiration for myself. Like what you guys have created, you, Monty, and making a platform like the likes of myself to be able to come on and tell my story. So big ups to you, bro. Big love to you guys, and I've been following your journey also.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. Take care.
Sweet, bro. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.